So, what's my hot take for today? Well, it is that SLO format sucks and it doesn't necessarily promote the best teams winning, the best teams qualifying, and so on and so on. And that's what I want to talk about. Spanish fans might hate me for what I'm saying right now, but I put on my hoodie today to not look like a completely skinny boy, so they're more afraid of me, more afraid to fight me, and also I'm back in Poland, so I'm pretty fucking safe, you know? Also, you might think you can get me if I go back to Spain, but let's be honest, you all will fucking forget about it, okay? So let me share my controversial opinion, and then you have to deal with it, because it's not actually that controversial, and LVP just had a really weird format that made no sense. So, issue number 1. LVP gave info that you can qualify to EUM only through the regular season, not through playoffs, already when the season started. Kind of shady, isn't it? Well, maybe the problem is that my team already knew, and they just didn't tell me, because they're liars, but I don't think that's the case. My team has me as a coach. They pay a lot of money to me, they pay a lot of money to the players, they pay a lot of money to the League of Legends, so why would they have a slot and be dishonest to me? It makes no sense. So I'm pretty sure LVP didn't give information to the teams, or at least to my team, and this means this is kind of dishonest when you give the info when we're already starting the season. Why would LVP do it? I feel like maybe they just forgot. I don't know. But one of the interesting things that we should consider is that LVP, due to recent changes, where you can't be using too many international players, you need to have 3 players from with your nationality, means that Spain is kind of desperate for international players. If they knew that you qualify through regular season only, then those players might have not came. Why would an international player not come to Spain? Well, if you're a good player, but you're not joining Giants or Movistar, you still maybe want to think, hey, I can get that 3rd spot for EU Masters. How do you do it? Well, I'm a good player. I believe in myself. If I believe in myself and I have enough time, I can improve my team. How do I get time? Well, I just qualify to playoffs, and then when I qualify to playoffs, I still have more time to help my team develop, and then in playoffs, we can get the 3rd slot, we can get top 3, just because I have more time, I'm a good player, I have a lot of experience, and I can use it. But if I would known that my team is not going to have the time in playoffs, maybe I wouldn't even come to LVP, because I would know that I have no legitimate chances of qualifying to EU Masters. This is kind of shady from LVP, because maybe they knew that not so many good players would come to LVP if they informed every single team about this decision from the very beginning. Also, on a side note, I was one of those people. When I was joining, because I wasn't with Team Queso from the very beginning, I joined them when the team was already 0-4. And interestingly enough, when I was joining for 0-4, my strategy was, hey, we have enough time, we qualify for playoffs, then from playoffs we make it to EU Masters. But the moment I joined the team, the next day the information came that you can only qualify through regular season. Suspicious, very suspicious, not the information I wanted to get, you know, especially when taking a huge risk on a team. Additionally, just for the strength of Spain, just for showcasing the strength of Spain, I feel like making qualifiers based on BO1 only is kind of a bad idea. You want to have someone who can play a BO5. This is where you actually show most of your strengths. You can display, you know, how good of a team you are, how you can adapt, and so on and so on. In BO1s, you can't actually do it. A lot of it is also kind of dependent on luck and, you know, like cheesy preparation. The problem number 2, playoffs started 4 days after the regular season ended. Why? We already qualified for EU Masters. Why do we have to go so fast? Here's why this is a problem. Obviously, if you're a viewer, you want to keep watching League of Legends and so on. Yes, but this makes it very difficult for other teams. For example, if you had a really bad beginning of the season, just like Team Queso, then you have to make sure that you at least qualify to playoffs. Especially if you suddenly find out that EU Masters qualifier is based on BO1s on the regular season. You put all your energy into this, into making sure that I have the best spot in the regular season, because that's the only thing that matters. However, here's the problem. If you put all this energy into trying to get as high in regular season as you can, maybe get the EUM slot, maybe you don't get it, but at least you want to make sure you qualify to playoffs. This means you most likely show all your stuff that you prepared, you put all your energy into those matches, and then when the playoffs come, 4 days later, surprisingly enough, you're so fucking tired and you have no time to prepare anything new. Because what you prepared, you already used it to make sure that you at least qualify to playoffs. Then the playoffs happen, and most of the teams want to come to playoffs with something special prepared. Some like surprise, some special pick, and so on. If you have only 4 days to prepare it just because you were tryharding at the end of the regular season, this means you can't do it. There's nothing. You have nothing prepared. You just play how you played all the time. And it's so much easier for teams to prepare against you, especially the teams that had easier regular season, just because maybe they got lucky, maybe, you know, at the beginning they put more effort into it. So for example, in the games where nobody knew that EUM qualifier would be based on regular season, those teams still try-harded, even though they didn't know it. And other teams maybe were trying to improve. But then when the teams that were trying to improve realized, oh no, the EUM qualifier is coming, they had to push in so much more effort at the end and the middle of the season than at the beginning, because at the beginning they couldn't do it. They can't go back in time. Also, another point to consider is that it's nice to give people time to refresh. If you have a team that was tryharding super fucking hard, or, you know, all the teams are basically tryharding super hard just to make it to playoffs, it would be nice to give them some time, you know, at least a week. So maybe they can take a day off, maybe 2 days off, and then come back and then play the playoffs, you know, have some time to prepare, and so on and so on. This time, no time to refresh. You just keep going, even though, why do we keep going? EU Masters, already everyone qualified. Here's my third point, probably the most important one that I want to talk about. EUM is happening while the Spanish playoffs are also happening. Why is this a problem? Let's look at this from the perspective of teams like Giants or Movistar Riders that qualified to EU Masters and are still going in EU Masters while they are I can't say it.
Simultaneously.
Oh, that's way better. Either way, let's get back to it. Let's look at it from the perspective of Giants, because Giants recently lost, and I think what I'm talking about is kind of tying into why they lost. Obviously, I don't want to take it away from G2 Arctic. They did play a really good series, but I think Giants were kind of handicapping themselves just because they were participating in 2 tournaments at the same time. EUM is way more important than playoffs in LVP. If you play in LVP, you play LVP mostly to qualify to EU Masters. This is like, from competitive standpoint, that's why you play this tournament. Why is European Masters more important? Well, it is more important because, you know, it's an international tournament. You're not just playing against best teams in your region, you're playing against all teams, all best teams from Europe. And this is also where you can get scouted. That's basically your main entry to LEC, because, you know, most of the players are competing because they want to get to LEC at some point. And most of the scouts are not looking at national leagues, and even if they're looking at it, EU Masters is the main way to get scouted. Additional point I should add to it is that LVP playoffs don't actually give you any money, interestingly enough. So even, you know, even if you were agreeing with your team to share some prize pools, if you win LVP, you get nothing. It doesn't matter. So here's the problem with playoffs and why they're even less important in this season. You don't get any money, but you also don't qualify to EU Masters through playoffs. So why should you try hard? The only thing you get is winning in Spain, but why would I win in Spain if I can win EU Masters, you know? Or maybe I can at least place highly in EU Masters. Another problem is that if I try hard, really super hard in LVP, I decrease my chances of getting placed highly in EU Masters. Well, why does it happen? Well, maybe I have some picks prepared that I don't want to show unless I think I have to show them to maybe upset someone, to surprise someone, to increase my chances of winning. Maybe I have some strategies, maybe I have some openings Maybe I have some like, weird picks connected to some strategies that I don't want to show if the game is not very important for me. So let's think about it. I am Giants. I am in EU Masters. It's a way more important tournament for me. For me as a coach, for me as a player, for me, as an analyst, for anyone who is on the team. And if I do good in LVP because I show my strategies and I win, I get nothing. I get basically nothing. Maybe I get some more recognition in LVP, but like, do Giants need it? Not really. They want to win EU Masters, Same thing for Movistar. I mean, Movistar maybe is kind of different because they have not won in Spain for such a long time, because Giants were just winning. But still, Movistar still probably look at it very similarly, where they consider EU Masters to be way, way more important than LVP playoffs. I've been talking to a camera for quite some time now, but basically my problem is that it's very difficult for me to see LVP, the region that once was super, super fucking good, struggle so much right now. And obviously part of the reason why they struggle so much is because there were some recent rule changes where you have to use more national players, and Spain was very good because they had so many international players. But what bothers me is that while they struggle with this, they're also not helping themselves with the format they are operating in. They're not helping themselves by suddenly telling teams that, hey, actually you qualify based on regular season, not playoffs. I know you already started the season, but it is what it is. I think they're also not helping themselves. They're not making the playoffs very, very important if there's no reward for it outside of just prestige. I also think they don't help themselves if there's only 4 days between regular season and playoffs, so the teams can't really, come up with anything new. There's no room for innovation. There's no room for even the smallest break between those 2 days. And also they don't help themselves really with having EU Masters go alongside LVP playoffs, or I should rather say LVP playoffs go alongside EU Masters. I know French League is still having its league games while EU Masters is happening, but it is kind of different because playoffs should be the really, really, really important part of the league. But then if you have teams like Giants and Movistar that don't want to show their strategies, it really, really decreases the value of the playoffs. And this brings me to the fundamental question: even if someone wins playoffs, are they the team that should have actually won the playoffs? And is the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth team the teams that should actually be in those positions? Or are they there just because the format was not favoring the strongest teams?